Lou Brock was the symbol for base stealing. But today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you. What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and this is a special occasion, and I brought a friend of the show back on because it's the end of an era in a very baseball-rich city, and I figured who better to discuss that than somebody who has been in the trenches with this team for years and years and years. Yeah, they had their last home game on September 26th, and we're going to get into the hows and the whys of everything. So without further ado, we have one half of the West of T podcast, the good sister NicJu. NicJu, how are you doing today? All things considered.
I am blessed, right? Blessed and highly favored, as the elders would say. All things considered, I'm still very sad, but
well, I was listening to the West of T podcast, and if you're not listening to the West of T podcast, y'all got to get with it. It's available on all streaming platforms, so it's always a great listen. Her and R to the Edgy. Shout out to R to the Edgy. And when they started their most recent episode, she went on a mini tirade about the Oakland A's, and I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to her because this is something that I know is near and dear to her heart, and I know she needs to get some things off her chest. So I provided the shovel, and I'm handing the shovel to you. So the state of the Oakland A's, where did it go wrong for you?
Yeah. So I was very optimistic when Dave Cavall became the president of the organization. Because, as a longtime fan of the A's, I always consider myself a very casual sports fan of whatever sport it is. I watch my team, and that's pretty much it. I might watch a few important games. Baseball, not, unlike any other sport. I saw it a bunch in person, but I wasn't like traveling, going to see other teams, basically Oakland, San Francisco. And then my brother and I were like, we should try to go see a bunch of ballparks or whatever. So I did start to see a few more, but just right there in my backyard, my team, since I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, I think it was 89, probably the World Series year is when I really started to be like, oh, I'm an A's fan. It might have been a year before that. But before I was a fan of the Orioles because I really liked Cal Ripken Jr. And then, like I told my story on your last show, I met Smoke, Dave Stewart, at my brother's football game and was like, okay, he was nice. What team you play for? Great. Y'all my team now at like 9 years old. So basically, that was that. Like, it was the gathering spot. The homies would go out there and tailgate. Sometimes we would go out there and tailgate, and even if I wasn't going to the game, we would just be down to the Coliseum because that's where we were, what we were doing. And then there was a long stretch of time, just nothing. We won like the AL West a couple of years in a row, but not back to the big dance since that last 89 win. But it's just kind of a staple in the Bay Area, in the East Bay, in Oakland, specifically on the freeway. You see the Coliseum when you drive by. The Warriors were there. Like, it was just like, it's just crazy to think that there are 0 major sports teams in Oakland now.
That bothers
me too. Because the philanthropic things that a major league franchise does for the city where they inhabit are huge. And all of that is gone. All of their foundation work, all of that is gone. And, Raiders fans will tell you like, we used to it because the Raiders hopped back and forth a time or two. But whatever's happening in Vegas right now, they're trying to build this sports dynasty. And I think it's terrible for the fans of the team because now Raiders games are away team getaways. You don't have a ton of Raiders fans like at every game. My brother has season tickets because he was granted first, round when they moved, but he don't go to them games. He sells them tickets. He'll go to like one game a year. Yeah. And I don't see how that works for baseball in Vegas. First of all, it's hot in Las Vegas. And there are 3 months during the baseball season where it's going to be triple digits out there. So I don't know how they make that work.
Yeah.
So the thing that bothered me was Dave Cavall came in and he was just like, he seemed to have 10 toes down. He seemed to be on team, keep the A's in Oakland. Because there have been kind of a history of the A's trying to leave the Coliseum because it's old. It's ran down. The rally possum became kind of a thing because there was like a possum in the media booth. And then the bathroom always flooded. The visitor locker rooms were trash. But like for me, it was home. I didn't know that it was awful because the only comparison I had was Giant Stadium. I'm like, oh, this fancy. But I thought everybody baseball stadium was kind of ratty. But then the whole thing started with like, so they were initially trying to move to Fremont, which is baseball Giants territory. They would not allow that. So not only being a crosstown rival, it's F the Giants forever for blocking our move, because if we had made that move to Fremont, none of this would have happened. And then the Fisher family, it's just greed, man. It's greed. They were trying to get the taxpayers to pay for the new stadium. And, they had a great plan. Howard Terminal was a great plan. It was an area that could use a little revitalization. It was a little bit further away from public transportation, but there was a plan for that, for like a shuttle, whatever, And the city was like, nah, you're a billionaire, buy your own baseball stadium. And so that looked like it was going to happen. There was this hearing and this petition. And then we just I feel like Dave Cavall played all of us because we really thought that he was down for the cause and he just was a puppet for the Fisher family.
Man. And go ahead.
And so now go ahead.
I remember hearing John Fisher's name in passing, and there was a clip that I saw on YouTube from he was a Bay Area sports guy. I think it was Larry Beal. And he just ripped into John Fisher. John Fisher apparently had written a letter to A's fans, and he tore it up on his behind the sports desk and just laid into him for a good 5 minutes. And I was like, you know what? Let me do my homework on this dude. And I was like, oh my God, this man is the definition of a tightwad.
It's like Al Davis and them too. It's just about the money. It's not ever about the fans. And at least for Raiders fans, Vegas ain't that far from Oakland. So you could hop on a flight for like 45 minutes and be in Vegas. But I just don't see baseball fans carrying over. I mean, people will go, obviously, because they're diehards. But I think it's the principle of it. So they have not obtained their funding for the new Vegas stadium. They don't have a stadium. So the MLB put out this, they had to either upgrade or move by this season. And the owners were all in support of this Vegas move. That's the other thing. The MLB and the owners, they could catch one too. It's not just John Fisher. The MLB could have stopped.
That's true.
And they did nothing. And so now, for me as a fan, I held on until the very last hearing in Oakland. And then when it was announced that they were moving, I was like, okay, well, I think that I'm done with this team. I think that I'm done with baseball because I don't know how to move on as a fan of no one. I'm not going to be a Nationals fan. Like, it's a great ballpark. I love going down there for the games, but no, I'm like, well, maybe I jump back on the Orioles bandwagon, which it's not a bad idea. It's like a solid hour from where I live. I don't think I would make it in person, but just sort of my love of baseball kind of faded with all of this because it's just super heartbreaking. And at first people were being really callous online, like teams move all the time. Y'all got to get over it, whatever. And we're like, it's not just this team. It is the legacy of baseball in Oakland. It is the legacy of Major League Sports all leaving Oakland, a predominantly Black city that is practically in ruins economically, that could really use the revenue that this park provides. All those people losing jobs, so they did announce recently that whatever happens with the sale of the land of the park or whatever, they're going to try to fund people's jobs or whatever. But I think the Oakland Roots are going to play there.
Okay.
this professional soccer team. Yeah. So for me, when the final thing was final, I was like, okay, this was 2022. This is my last season rooting for the A's. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do after that. So this season, I don't think I watched a single A's game. I was just sort of peripherally watching because I feel bad for the players. Everyone loves playing in Oakland. People, for the most part, don't have much bad to say about playing for the organization. I feel bad. And then, I was like, I'm not gonna throw away my gear. I'm still like I was just telling you, I was trying to wear a jersey, it didn't look right. It didn't fit. It wasn't that it did. I've been wearing A shirts all week. But yeah, I'm done. I'm not gonna be a Las Vegas A's fan. Like, what even is that? So they have to play in Sacramento next season because they have no stadium. They haven't even broke ground. They have no funding. They probably won't have a stadium.
Yeah, I think they're playing in Sacramento for the next 3 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now I got to put Vivek on the board too. He gets some too. The Kings owner, he gets some too. Because the problem, what's going to happen? Everybody wants John Fisher to sell the team. What will happen is he will move to Vegas and sell the team. That's what's going to happen. It's a money grab. So there's been, I'm sure people have seen them, flags and T-shirts that say sell. It's been a season-long fan boycott. I grabbed one myself. I wore it to every baseball game I went to this year. And then sometimes, like, in the middle of games, they would just be, like, starting the sell the team chant for the entire inning. But I don't know. I was confused as to why people were going to the games. Like, why are y'all going to these games? We need this stadium to be empty as hell, like, the entire season. And a bunch of people I saw from home who were going to the games, it was still very empty. And then you would see comments of people being like, no wonder they want to move the team. Don't nobody come to these games. But, like, the bathroom will be flooded. It's you don't get the value for your money.
Right. So, yeah.
So that's, that's...
So I want to talk a little bit about John Fisher, just doing my due diligence. So I already referenced him being notoriously cheap. So 2023, the Oakland A's had the very lowest payroll in all of Major League Baseball in 2023. Payroll is $58.7 million. They were dead last in payroll again this year with a payroll of $63.5 million. Mind you, this man's net worth is $3.1 billion. That's billion with a B.
His family is the Old Navy Gap people.
Furloughed his staff in 2020. Which it was COVID. I kind of understand that, but then he said that they weren't allowed to return in 2021. And I had written down the two new the ballpark plans with Howard Terminal and Lake Merritt, but you already covered that. Then again, the flooding locker rooms, the feral cats, and just refused to renovate the.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about Lake Merritt. I forgot all about Lake Merritt. There were also plans to go to one of the colleges in the area too for a little bit.
Yeah, because I was listening to Larry Beal's tirade. He said they had 5 proposed plans for where to put the new A's ballpark, and I was like, man, it just plans fell through. So where do we go from here?
Right. So the Ballers are a Pioneer League team. And actually, the president of the Ballers put out a really nice statement after the last homestand in Oakland that they were never trying to replace the A's because you can't do that. But there was a park in Oakland, Ramundi Park, that was kind of dilapidated, torn down, wasn't being used. In a matter of maybe a month and a half, they renovated it to get to the point where they could have a team playing there and have done so excellent all season. I think they made it like to the playoffs. I had kind of fell off on watching their progress. But they put out a campaign. They want to be a fan-owned organization. So I jumped on. I bought some shares. I'm part owner of the Oakland Ballers now. And I think it's, and they wear the same exact colors. I think it's super cool that they're the bees not the A's. And then just a little play on that possum that was in the media booth. Their mascot is
I didn't know that. And I like the fact that they also had a woman that was a starting pitcher. I can't remember her name, but I was like, man, that's all right right there.
Me neither, but yeah.
I think I want to reach out to her and get her on the podcast too.
And then look her up.
Yeah.
That would be dope.
So
I'm gonna look her up because we should say her name.
So while you're doing Kelsey Whitmore, I knew it started with a K. I remember that, but I couldn't remember Kelsey Whitmore. Yeah, I'm definitely going to reach out to her. So now, instead of doing 5 questions this segment, since you've already been on here, we're going to do 3 questions. The last question is going to be the same, but question number 1.
Okay.
What's your favorite album of 2024?
It is Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter, followed very closely by Doechii.
Oh my God. I'm going to get into that Doechii album in a little bit, but I just recently heard of Sabrina Carpenter. I'm not very familiar with her music. So how would you describe her music?
She's a pop star, but it has all different genre kind of stuff. There's some like folksy country stuff on there. There's stuff that kind of sounds like a light R&B. So I had heard her song Please Please Please, and I love it. It's cheeky, it's little cuss words, whatever. And so when her album came out, I was like, oh, this is very short. It's like a triple play because she's 5 feet tall. The album is short, whatever. And there's a lot of little background mess too with her and a couple of other little pop stars and stuff. So I'm like, oh, let me listen. And she opens it a little grown, this song called Taste. And then the other song that I had heard all over TikTok that I didn't realize was her was the song Espresso. That's a little jammy jam. And then she's got a little R&B song called Bedchem, Bedchem. Okay. It's cute. It's real cute. It's giving. I'm into it. And then that Doechii, I'm just like, I feel like once a week, I'm like, let me go back to
Alligator Bites Don't Heal mixtape. Oh my God. I play that front to back at least once a week. I love it.
Same. Did Cowboy Carter come out this year?
I'm not sure. Okay.
It did. And that's probably the one that's going to have the most replay for me by the end of the year. I'm just in my moment right now. I'm hardcore spinning that Sabrina Carpenter.
Understood. So in the pantheon of Beyonce albums, where would you put Cowboy Carter?
So I'm new to the fandom. I jumped on at self-titled. Renaissance is my favorite Beyonce album. I think Cowboy Carter, it had to grow on me, but I revisit it so often. It's higher than Lemonade. I don't listen to Lemonade very often at all. I would say it's,
okay,
top 4.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Question number 2. If you could be any animal, what animal would you be?
I think that I would be a meerkat. Yeah, we just did this little animal symbolism exercise at work, and it was so funny because every person was like very similar to the things that it said about their animal, and I picked meerkat because I love to pop up, be a little silly, and all of the characteristics fit me. I just think they're so cute, and just it's like they are hella nosy like me. Every once in a while, they just like, what y'all talking about?
Oh, that's great. And then question number 3. What's the last thing that really made you laugh?
Okay. How to Die Alone, which is an amazing show on Hulu. Natasha Rothwell wrote, created, and stars in. I'm gonna try to say it without spoiling, but in the very beginning of the show, she's like in the hospital, and a patient next to her dies and she threw up on the lady face. And this is disgusting, but it made me kick and scream, laugh. The show's really good.
What's the name of the show again? How to Die Alone.
How to Die Alone. It's on Hulu. All the episodes are streaming.
So, any parting words or anything you want to plug or promote? Floor is yours.
Yeah. So I'll say this. It has been fun this season watching baseball just for the sake of liking baseball. I'm right now, I'm not going to say who I'm rooting for because I'm a little janky, but I am excited about this Yankees-Padres scenario. I just recently went to Cleveland, and that's a really fun baseball team and a great ballpark. So I might pop in once or twice this postseason just meerkat in to see what's going on with the baseballs. To promote, what's the team? I mean, we dropped one this month. We might do another one this month. My podcast host is currently not in the country, and then I'm going somewhere, and so we try our very best to do at least once a month. However, since the Great British Baking Show is back, that means that the podcast that I do with the fellas from Stays Crunchy and Milk is back. So that's Creme Patissier, creme spelled with a K. We are back reviewing the Great British Baking Show. Bake Off, but Baking Show.
Skin Pot Gang for life.
Everywhere you can.
Skin Pot Gang for life.
Yeah.
Stays
Crunchy.
NicJu, thanks again. This is always a pleasure when you go on the pod, and thank you for just carving some time out of your day to, just let it be known how you feel about the state of things, Oakland A. So again, thank you for being on.
I appreciate you. Can I ask you a question before we part? I think I know the answer, but who is your favorite Oakland A's player?
You mean this guy right here? The greatest leadoff hitter of all time?
Yeah,
Ricky Henley Nelson Henderson.
Yeah.
He's my all-time favorite baseball player. Period. Matter of fact, I'm about 2/3 of the way through his audiobook, which, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know they do audiobooks on Spotify too. So I spent a good chunk of my workday. I spent a real good chunk of my workday just going through his. I'm currently going through his audiobook, and this is extremely fascinating. Yeah.
Nice.
But nice. I love Ricky. I love. Mm-hmm.
I don't like. Yeah, I figured that would be the answer, but I just wanted to know because I know you know. I know you.
Yeah,
you
I mean, Smoke,
players,
the Bash Brothers,
the days of yore,
Eckersley.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big Dave Henderson fan too. Yeah.
The Bash Brothers, all of that. That was a time, man. Like that 20 streak season, like we all have our stories about which one of those games we were at when they were filming Moneyball. A bunch of people I know went down there to be in the crowd shots for Moneyball. Like there's just so many iconic memories we had, and that was the part that I should part with something good. It was heartbreaking. It was very sad. Everybody I know from home went down to the Coliseum and got tickets for the last home stand. Even my brother, who's a Giants fan, he went down there. And just to see Instagram just flooded with a bunch of people sharing their Coliseum memories. I shared some of my own. My friends got married at the Coliseum during batting practice. Then we all went to the game. They had their anniversary at the Coliseum. Like, I have spent so much of my life out there with so many great people. $2 Tuesdays. It would just be like, you don't have nothing to do for dinner. You go down to the ballpark and just go to the ballpark because the game is so cheap. $2 hot dogs, whatever. I'm going to miss that camaraderie, the love, the people that I used to hang out with. But that's the part that they can't ever take from us. Our memories, the legacy, the great players on the Coco Chris, that iconic silhouette of him with his hat and his fro. Like, yeah, you can't. You just can't take it away. And now I get to root for some of my favorite players all on other teams, like Marcus Simeon, hometown hero. I know his mother. like Stephen Vogt now the manager of the Guards. Like it's just everywhere I go, there's a little Oakland in baseball.
I love it.
For
You
me.
put the perfect bow in the end of this conversation. So again, thank you for being on, and thank you guests for listening. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. You can find my YouTube channel and subscribe there at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find all the videos for this podcast, as well as my other podcast since we last spoke with Danny Foxworth, which NicJu has also been a guest on, and my other two podcasts, which is Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, and my podcast about candles entitled A Wicked Good Time. A new episode of that is going to come on this Monday, or next Monday, I should say. So, for Nick and myself, this has been another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, and until next time, y'all be good. 3 strikes.